You said after game 5, I got a lot on my mind.
Oh boy.
What particularly, in what direction was your mind racing at that juncture?
I mean, everywhere. And I'm going to be good today. I am, because I'm just tired of our league. They need to step up and be better. Our leadership from top to bottom needs to be held accountable. I think that there are a lot of people in the position of powers in the WNBA who they might be really great business people, but they don't know about basketball, and that's got to change. I said I was going to be good, and I just messed up.
Did a WNBA role player just end the commissioner's career with a single interview? It sounds like an exaggeration, but after Sophie Cunningham torched the league office in her exit interview, it's the only question that matters. She didn't just voice frustration. She launched a direct, calculated assault on Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, and the shockwaves could reshape the entire league. This wasn't just another player complaining. This was a declaration of war that has been brewing for years.
The players from that side of things are reaching out to us just like in awe of how terrible it is. Like, that's saying something. That is absolutely saying something when your counterpart is feeling bad for us because of how we're getting treated. I mean, come on. And that's from leadership. That's from, I mean, I'll
At the very heart of her nuclear rant was a devastatingly simple accusation. The WNBA is being run by brilliant business minds who know absolutely nothing about the game of basketball. Let that accusation sink in for a moment. The veteran guard for the Phoenix Mercury essentially claimed that the person steering the ship has no idea how to read a map. It's a bold, almost unbelievable claim that exposes a deep, structural crack in the foundation of the league's leadership. A crack that many players have been quietly whispering about for far too long.
Leave it there. From our leadership, it's just bad. When fans and players, especially players, you know, when we're competing at the highest level and it's like a battlefield out there, when we're agreeing on the court because of how awful the officials are, like that's saying something. Like, listen to us. We're not going to come for your heads, but I think there is room for improvement to change the criteria when the whole league is asking for it. But when the leadership isn't doing anything about it, why? And so I think there's just frustration. The game's not fun to watch because everyone's just trying to kill each other, because that's how you're going to survive. Otherwise, you get injured. I don't know. It just sucks. Our game is changing, and yeah, we want it to be physical, but at the same time, like, you still want to watch good basketball. And when
Cunningham's explosive words perfectly captured the on-court chaos that defined the entire season. Far too many games descended into borderline wrestling matches, with wildly inconsistent officiating, turning the sport into something that looked more like a mix of rugby and WWE than professional basketball. Marquee players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese were consistently treated like tackling dummies, absorbing vicious elbows, blatant shoves, and cheap shots that would trigger immediate ejections and suspensions in any other professional league. Instead of protection, the league's stars got chaos, and the fans were served a product that looked unprofessional and dangerously out of control.
But you said no anything about basketball. Is there anything to that beyond officiating to you, or is that mostly?
Say what? I'm sorry?
You said that business people but don't know anything about basketball. Is that a critique beyond officiating, or is that most of where that?
No, I think it's officiating for sure. I think that there's room for improvement there when, you know, people are reaching, why is that a foul, or why is that not upgraded, or why is it not a foul? Well, the criteria says, well, the criteria needs to change, clearly. And I think that's kind of where, like, you know, people are in position to change that, but they don't know basketball. Like, yeah, you've been around the game, but you haven't played. And, you know, maybe that's on us players that after we're done, maybe we try to move into those positions so we can make the next generation better, so we can improve the game even when we're done. I don't know what that looks like, but I know that definitely needs to change.
But this wasn't just incompetence. It was a systemic meltdown. The officiating crisis went deeper than a few missed calls. It was about a complete loss of control. One night, a slight hand check would be called a foul. The next, a player could be body slammed to the floor with no whistle. Refs seemed to swallow their whistles entirely during crucial moments, allowing games to be decided by brute force rather than skill. This inconsistency didn't just frustrate players. It fundamentally damaged the integrity of the competition. How can you have a legitimate league when the rules are applied differently from quarter to quarter and from player to player? It's a question the league office has refused to answer.
Especially when it comes to the CBA, that our leadership on that side is just very poor. Very, very poor. And I think you guys Nafisa hit it right on the head. I don't think I really need to go into detail, but that's just coming from one player, and that's probably 1% of what she knows.
As it turns out, the leadership wasn't just ignorant of the problem. They were actively dismissive. The proof came from a bombshell dropped by another star, Nafisa Collier, who has become another brave voice in this movement. She revealed a private conversation where Commissioner Engelbert allegedly told her that only losers complain about the refs. Imagine the sheer audacity. The commissioner of a professional sports league telling one of her most elite athletes that her valid concerns about player safety and officiating fairness make her sound like a sore loser. That single arrogant comment revealed a level of contempt from the top that explains everything. That's precisely what makes Sophie Cunningham's public stand so incredibly significant. She isn't a global icon with a 9-figure Nike contract to fall back on. She's a veteran grinder, a blue-collar role player who has scratched and clawed for every minute of her career. When she decides to publicly blast the league's leadership, she's putting her entire paycheck on the line. The fines for criticizing the league or its officiating are notoriously steep, capable of wiping out a significant portion of her salary. Her decision to speak out wasn't just brave. It was a high-stakes gamble with her financial future. This is why her joke about needing a GoFundMe to cover the league's fines hit so hard. It wasn't just a witty comeback. It was a deeply symbolic act of rebellion. The GoFundMe comment perfectly encapsulated the power imbalance within the WNBA. It highlighted a system where players feel financially cornered, forced to choose between speaking the truth and paying their bills. Cunningham used dark humor as a weapon, exposing a punitive culture where the league would rather silence dissent with financial penalties than actually address the legitimate issues being raised. This culture of punishment isn't a new phenomenon. In fact, Cunningham herself was once fined simply for saying on a podcast that rookie sensation Paige Bueckers gets a favorable whistle from the referees. Let that sink in for a second. A minor opinion-based comment on a non-league platform resulted in a direct financial penalty. So when players see the league penalizing them for tame observations while simultaneously ignoring the violent, on-court actions that put their careers and physical health at risk, it creates an unbearable pressure cooker. Cunningham's interview wasn't just a rant. It was the sound of that pressure cooker finally and violently exploding. Of course, you cannot possibly talk about the 2024 WNBA season without focusing on the Caitlin Clark effect. For months, fans watched in horror as she was relentlessly hacked, shoved, and targeted with cheap shots. Engelbert has reportedly told other players that Clark should be grateful for the platform the WNBA provided her. It is a statement so profoundly and fundamentally out of touch with reality. It borders on delusional. It's a perspective that reveals a dangerous ignorance about the modern sports landscape. Let's deconstruct the sheer absurdity of the grateful comment. Caitlin Clark didn't need the WNBA to become a global superstar. She was already one. While at Iowa, she shattered NCAA scoring records, sold out arenas across the country, and single-handedly drove the women's NCAA tournament to viewership numbers that rivaled major men's sports. She had national endorsement deals with brands like Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm before ever signing a WNBA contract. The truth is, Clark didn't need the league's platform. The league desperately needed her star power. For the commissioner to not understand that simple fact is a shocking indictment of her leadership. And this pattern of blatant disrespect wasn't just reserved for the new face of the league. It extends to its most revered legends as well. Just ask Elena Delle Donne, a two-time league MVP, a champion, and one of the 25 greatest players in WNBA history. After announcing her retirement from the sport, she revealed that she heard from everyone across the sports world: coaches, former teammates, rival players, and media members, except for her own commissioner. Engelbert couldn't even be bothered to pick up the phone or send a text message to acknowledge the career of an icon. It's a pattern of neglect that shows the problem isn't one player or one issue. It's a systemic failure of leadership. Sophie Cunningham is not a lone wolf howling in the wilderness. She is the latest and loudest voice in a rapidly growing chorus of rebellion. Superstars like Nafisa Collier have called out Engelbert directly by name. Role players like Lexi Hull have publicly backed Collier's claims, adding credibility to the movement. A powerful wave of discontent is sweeping through the league's locker rooms, uniting players of all statuses who are simply tired of being ignored, disrespected, and punished for having an opinion. This all boils down to a dangerous and unsustainable conflict at the very heart of the WNBA. Profits over players. On one hand, Cathy Engelbert can proudly point to rising franchise valuations, a massive new media rights deal on the horizon, and the long-awaited introduction of full-time charter flights. These are undeniable business successes. But the players are asking, at what cost? While the league's front office celebrates its financial wins, the on-court product is being actively damaged by horrific officiating and a commissioner who seems to value balance sheets far more than player safety. This conflict has created two entirely different versions of the WNBA. There's the business success narrative that Engelbert's office pushes, filled with talk of billion-dollar valuations and corporate partnerships. Then there's the basketball reality that players like Sophie Cunningham live every day, a reality of ignored safety concerns, chaotic games, and a complete lack of faith in leadership. Cunningham's accusation that the league is run by business people who don't know basketball wasn't just an insult, it was a perfect diagnosis of the league's identity crisis. This public implosion is no longer just an internal HR problem. It has metastasized into a full-blown credibility crisis for the entire league. When your own players are openly and repeatedly questioning your competence, and when fans are siding with them against you, the brand itself begins to erode and tarnish. No amount of billion-dollar media deals can hide the ugly truth that the league is in a state of internal chaos. Engelbert is trying to sell a story of unprecedented growth, but the stars of the show are standing up and telling the world that the foundation is rotten. That's precisely why Sophie Cunningham was the perfect person to light this fuse. She's not a rookie looking for a headline or a spoiled superstar complaining from a position of immense power. She is the embodiment of the league's backbone, a tough, respected, hard-nosed veteran whose words resonate with every player who has ever felt overlooked or undervalued. Her frustration is raw, authentic, and real, and it comes from a place of deep love for a game she feels is being fundamentally mismanaged into the ground. And the fans are clearly listening. Social media platforms erupted with overwhelming support for Cunningham, with thousands of people offering to donate to her theoretical GoFundMe to help cover the league's inevitable fines. This reaction tells you everything you need to know. When your customer base is actively trying to help a player defy your rules, you haven't just lost a locker room. You've lost the entire arena. The commissioner is now completely isolated, with only a punitive rulebook to hide behind. In moments of profound crisis, true leaders step up and take command. Adam Silver famously banned an NBA owner for life for racist remarks, acting swiftly and decisively. David Stern was known for his iron-fisted, yet respected, control. But Cathy Engelbert's response to this player-led rebellion, a weak, robotic, and utterly tone-deaf press release, stating that she was disheartened. That's not leadership. It's a quiet surrender. It is the response of someone who has no answers, no authority, and no control over the situation. And in the cutthroat world of professional sports, that kind of weakness is a fatal flaw. What players like Sophie Cunningham are asking for isn't unreasonable. They want what any employee in any industry wants: accountability, communication, and basic respect. They want a leader who understands their craft, listens to their concerns, and prioritizes their well-being. A commissioner like the NBA's Adam Silver, for all his own criticisms, has cultivated a reputation as a player's commissioner because he engages in dialogue. Engelbert, by contrast, seems to believe that fines and dismissive comments are an effective leadership strategy. She is failing to meet even the most basic standard of what a modern commissioner should be. Ultimately, the biggest and most immediate threat to Engelbert's job may come from above. The WNBA is deeply intertwined with the NBA, and you can be absolutely certain that Adam Silver and the NBA's Board of Governors are watching this public dumpster fire with growing alarm. Silver understands a fundamental truth that Engelbert seems to miss. The players are the product. He will not allow a rogue commissioner to permanently damage a brand he has invested decades in building. If he decides that Engelbert is more of a liability than an asset, her time will be up, and it will be up quickly. In the end, Sophie Cunningham's fiery interview wasn't just an airing of grievances. It was a final, desperate warning shot. It was the moment the players collectively drew a line in the sand and demanded immediate, radical change. The league is now at a critical crossroads, and a change in leadership feels not just possible, but entirely inevitable. The only question left is, how much longer can Cathy Engelbert possibly hold on when her own players are the ones leading the charge to push her out the door?